I'm just going to go into a conspiracy regarding myself. You know, it's based on a lot of the concepts in my songs. Sometimes it's creativity, sometimes it's different things. Like the political is based on, you know, like the 7-7 Justice track is based on like political stuff. And then there's some things to do with what possibly could be paranoid psychosis, which I've got. I mean, I know I've got bipolar. I know, I've got a mental illness. I won't say I'm, normally sane for my life situation, but what I will say, this is a conspiracy, regarding myself, which has made me mention a lot about thinking about being on public television and stuff, and which is why I can explain, my reasons behind a lot of this stuff, so people understand. Yeah, I will admit, that I've got a mental illness, right? So there's a thing that contradicts that. But again, critical thinking, conspiracy things that don't make sense, right? And what we'll start with is, like signs, before I go into the conspiracy regarding myself and, about who I am and, how I'm different to normal human beings, like genetically and stuff like that, and where the conspiracy leads from there. But what we'll start with, we'll start with this, right? The clues, what I remember the main points from where this started around 2003, 2004, where the signs and the clues, or what made me suspicious, came from about thinking I'm under the public eye for starters, right? And what I would say before I start is this: I actually made a recording before, which I didn't upload to YouTube. I just recorded it, and I think I sent it to send to my friend, or someone I thought was my friend. Let's just say that, to see if he can listen to it and tell me why he understands where I'm coming from, why I think that. But as I said, it's gone missing from my sent files in my Yahoo Mail, as the one I sent it to him, which is weird. But I'll re-record these things and say the clues are mentioned and that, starting from where all this started from, right? And what I will say where this started from, I mean, for 17 years, I never even thought this, but as I said, around 2003, 2004, this is the reason why I mention it a lot about stuff like that. And basically, one day, my mates and that from Broughton, where I used to live, I knew these dudes from school and that, and, I hung around with them in the village and that for years. And, this is what made me suspicious, let's just say that one day we were sitting in the back of my mate's car, right, randomly chatting about stuff. And, my mates say something like, Mace's house is rigged up with cameras and that. And, analysing from how we used to talk about stuff when we ever did have conversations, this thing, it stuck to my mind. I don't know if it's something to do with the third eye thing that I've talked about, but whatever it was, when I heard that, I was like, wait, that sounded odd for my mates to say, and it sounded random and it just sounded odd for them to say, which is what stuck to my mind and led where it went on to. But what proceeded from there, maybe within a month or so after, what led from that, I don't know why. Maybe it's because the senses that I felt I was being watched, and when you can sense people are watching you. But I ended up writing on a piece of paper, right, writing on a piece of paper, I just one night in my bedroom in Broughton, I just wrote on this piece of paper, like, if people could give a sign, am I being watched, please cough twice when I see you, if you see me next. And what led from there, as I said, there's not solid proof to it, but what we will say on this, putting aside the parapsychosis, all that stuff, is, the next day after I wrote that, I was working at Morrison's, Kettering at the time, the supermarket. I went into work the next day, right, and I started noticing this, as soon as I came into Morrison's, and I was walking, and about to go up onto the bakery where I worked, and this dude walked out of the staff toilets and that. And he saw me and he did this distinctive cough twice, and you could tell it wasn't like a normal cough that someone's got tickly throat or a smoker's cough. It was like a And he looked at me as well. But you know what proceeded from there, and on that day, which I noticed, while I was on that shop floor, the staff, even my manager, were doing it all day. They were just standing there, you know, doing it near enough every so often, cough, cough, you know, all doing it, not just my manager, but my colleagues. And you know, this is from analysis, even if I'd noticed it, regardless, they never did that before. So, you know, on this conspiracy, if you're on my level, you can see where I'm coming from with this concern, and why I'm pushed to that. And before I proceed with other clues, what I record on in this recording, as I said, what's gone missing, same things I said, and that is, referring to back as a child, when I used to walk up my street, Glebe Avenue in Broughton, where I used to live. As a kid, I remember noticing when I used to specifically get up too near to my address where I lived at that street, I always used to have that sense that someone was watching me, and I don't know where it was coming from. But you know what I mean? I always did get that sense every time when I got to that street, I just didn't know where it was coming from, for starters. And, referring back to, again, my childhood again, when I went on a visit school to Henry Gotch, now Eyes Community School, or something like that, to primary school, but we were going to see what it would be like when we're in secondary school. And, basically, when I was walking up the school stairs, all I remember is this kid sitting in this classroom, who obviously was older than me. And, all I know is he looked around and he distinctively looked at me, and he started just going crazy, like angry, like he knew me, and I didn't know this kid. This was a stranger. And, he got up and he went to run out and attack me, and his teacher quickly calmed him down. And, I remember that as a distinctive memory for a reason. Firstly, this was a different school, secondary school. I was on a visit from a primary school, to see what it'd be like. I didn't know this kid for shit, I never knew anyone or any kids in Kettering, where I live now at the time as well. And so, yeah, that was suspicious along with those things. But then we'll revert back to the things that carried on, from after writing on that paper. And, all I remember from that is, trying to tie this in. As I said, and after work, starting to work at Morrison's, the supermarket. This is the same thing that happened. When I was working on the bakery, which didn't make sense either. This kid, this mother with a kid, who I didn't know either of them, the mother or the kid. And knowing them, and all I know is in the bakery, I didn't even have a name tag, None of us wore name tags for starters, right? So, this kid basically says, "Look, Mum, there's Alex," right? And when I heard her say that, I was thinking, I don't know this kid. And, I was thinking, I didn't even know her mum. And I was thinking, how did she know my name and that? For starters, that didn't make sense for starters. And this was just making me more concerned. And, critically thinking again, how did this kid know my name? If apparently I'm a stranger like everyone else. And, I don't know her mother or her kid is. So, I didn't know what the fuck was going on with that. But, I was suspicious already. And that's just one of the clues from where it went from to why this conspiracy of, this situation and what I mentioned in tracks and that. And I'm just trying to carry on with, before, I'll revert back to before I started work at Morrison's as well. I know I'm reverting back, but this is another clue. This is before this is when I was at college, before when I got my first job at Morrison's. But like my first, what I would class of, what I thought was, what would you class as your first love, one of my exes, Jay. When I was at college and before I met my mate hooked me up with her, basically I remember, in college the dude was talking to this lady, right? And he was saying, basically I saw the conversation. And, she was saying, who is it? And he just said Alex Chambers, right? And when I saw this conversation, she just said, yeah, hook me up with him. And I didn't know this lady. As I know, when I met her, she was a stranger. So I remember that conversation he had, I think it was MSN or something. And, when I saw that conversation where he just mentioned my name and she's, he didn't even show her my picture or anything. I didn't even have a profile online anyway. that was another thing that stuck in my mind when I saw that again, like the cameras in the flat, because I was thinking, he just tells this lady my name, right, and she doesn't know what I look like or supposedly know who I am, but the way she reacted was saying that when he mentioned my name, she knew who I was. That's critical thinking, however wise, critical thinking. So you can understand where I'm coming from with this paranoia psych. You know what I mean, what I've got. So you know what I mean. And that's just one of those things, And you know what proceeded from there, when I got a number and that, when I was back in Brighton, when I got home that night, I phoned her up and that, and the way she reacted, when I phoned her, as soon as I phoned her, all I know is she was reacting, tied along with what I just said. As soon as I phoned her, she was getting so damn excited, as if she was speaking to someone who's, how ladies react. Well, ladies definitely react, as an example, if, if a lady got a phone call from, I don't know, some dude she fancies, some pop star, how she would react, ladies would react, they'd be going crazy excited, you've seen how ladies do in programs when they meet people like that. And this is how she was reacting, and I was again, something what was making me suspicious. She was going hyper, and I was thinking, wait a minute, I'm just some normal dude. Why is she so excited about speaking? You know what I mean? And, this is another thing again. She hadn't even shown my picture yet as well. So if she didn't know me, critical thinking, why was she getting so excited about a dude she doesn't know or didn't know? So you can understand my side of this, so why the conspiracy fits in. And then what we'll do is we'll, fast forward, and as I said, fast forward what happened after that, not long after, the news as writing on the piece of paper through Morrison's and that, and what led from there. From what I last said to the kid with her mum and that. And, we'll proceed from there. And, then we'll move on to, I think it was my next job, what I had, it was, wait. Yeah, B&Q, right? B&Q in Kettering again. And one thing that stuck with my mind working there, when I was working at the checkouts, this dude I served there, right? Basically, after I served him, he turned around, right? And he says, "I'm watching you." And then he did the cut, and then he coughed twice. And my memory reverted, as I said, because right at this time, what was going on, the suspicions were getting more after what I previously mentioned. And reverting back to the piece of paper, am I being watched? That was one thing that stuck in my mind from that. And then we'll proceed from there. And then my next job was Wicksteed's Park, right? And basically when I was working down there. And, this is another thing that now I realise in memory. When I was working down there, it was the summertime, obviously, busy time. And I remember this, I don't know, like a student or something walking through. She was wearing a T-shirt and it with big white bold letters. And it said, "Do you ever have the feeling you're being watched?" And when I saw that, now the memories come back. These things, you can feel me about this suspicion psych that I have about being watched psych. And, that was another thing. And then we'll move on to another job. Let's just say I went through a lot of jobs regarding this situation. It fucked me up, distracted me, because my paranoia psych of thinking I was being watched psych. And, move on to, when I move on to Tesco and that. And, all I'll say on this one, another suspicious thing, there's a couple of things when working there. When I was working there the first day, after the interview and that, I went to work there. And, I obviously had the Tesco staff clothes going into there, but I wasn't given my name tag yet. And, before we put into the possibility, let's just say, right, as we were getting to this alcohol section there, one of the staff, he just turned around and says, "Hello, Alex," right? And all I know is, what the first thing I thought, obviously, with this situation, because I was thinking, how does he know my name? Because I'm not wearing a name tag. And then we'll put in the possibility on this one that, yeah, they could have said, "We've got a new staff member called Alex coming in," right? But the thing is, what I put into this argument, the critical question, is this dude works on the alcohol section there, yeah? And I was working on the internet picking and packing section there. So I always think, what the argument is, why would they have to tell a member of staff of Tesco who works on the alcohol section about a member of staff who's not going to be one of his colleagues, who's working on a different thing. But, that possibility is still there. But, a main thing that sticks to my mind, which is even more suspicious than this, about the paranoia psych being watched. What happened one night when I went home back to Broughton, I was basically freestyling some crap, It was just a freestyling, just bullshit, random stuff. I was rapping some crap like I find out where you live and shit like that, some bullshit. And all I know, the next day at work, and this was exactly the next day, the staff on the table sitting across the table from me, they were basically, as if they were joking around or whatever. They were using those lyrics. They were like, ridiculing, taking a piss way, saying, to each other as a joke, I'll find out where you live, I'll be scared. And when I heard that, my memories were saying, wait a minute, last night I was freestyling, lyrics like that, specifically saying stuff like that. And critically thinking, I'm asking myself, more than coincidental, and how they were saying it, how did they know, on the lines of what I was freestyling about the night before, the stuff what they mentioned. So, you got to understand this paranoia psych that I have. And, and this is where it gets really crazy, man. And this is where this gets really insane. Referring to, these tracks, if you listen to my mixtape, if you like my music, about this lady who, if you know her, Nicole Kidman, an Australian actress. And for those songs, as I said, I've got paranoia, right, my delusion psych. But this is the explanation through that and why. Basically, during this time, I think it was after the Tesco thing and whatever was going on, when I was with my mates and, basically this, which I didn't realise at the time, but I'll explain what goes into that and one of the tracks I made. But, this, I think, was my mate's girlfriend. And, when she was around, she never spoke in that and stuff, right? And, I was oblivious. Her name was Rhea and that, and apparently she was from Corby, or she was from Corby. But, this is when my delusion, my paranoia psych kicks in. But, let's just say this, what was going on around the time. One night I was, one day while she was around, while she was, with my mate, I went in Broughton, and this is where my delusion, my paranoia psych, or even conspiracy kicks in, even that sounds insane psych. I went into the downstairs bathroom and just went toilet, and all I noticed, there was a newspaper on the floor in the bathroom, and it had Nicole Kidman on, right? And this is the explanation from why the conspiracy. Nicole Kidman, and all I know is when I saw this woman, Nicole Kidman's face, I didn't really follow her before, let's just explain. As soon as I saw her face in the paper, like memory, like natural brain memory, facial recognition, from that, I saw this woman's face, Nicole Kidman, and all I know is my memory was saying, like natural brain recognition. I saw the face, and she looked distinctively like this lady, my mate's girlfriend Rhea, who was around at the time. That's just, anyone who knows Nicole Kidman, she's a very distinctive lady, right? So. When I saw, and what I did, I sat there and I looked at this newspaper and I covered up this lady's hair and that, because his girlfriend, my mate's girlfriend Rhea, who looked like her, had brown hair, who was around. But that's why I did it. I just focused on the main facial features. And while I was sitting there, my mind was tripping out. And I was like, wait a minute, this lady looks exactly like this actress called Nicole Kidman. And she's a very distinctive woman. But what happened from there, because it, as I said, as insane as it's saying psych, for me, when you listen to this recording, I just blanked it, but it did stick on my mind, obviously as a memory, which is what I'm talking about now. But that's, I don't know what the fuck that's about, and all I'll go on from there as well, to do with this lady, and more into why it's weird as well. From that, I need to try and recap my memory and what's, the analysis again of memory is, the downstairs bathroom where I used to live. No one ever left the newspaper, or had ever left the newspaper in the downstairs bathroom. This is just from memory analysis. Everyone who used to go in there, it's like my dad who used to go in there, he never used to leave a newspaper in there, even read it if he took a dump or whatever, so it was weird on this conspiracy about this lady, even though it's, I know I've got paranoid psychosis and I'm crazy psych, but it's a conspiracy, so you can see where I'm coming from, as insane as it sounds psych, but that made me suspicious as well, and which is why I mentioned on this song called Don't You Leave Me Lonely, where I mentioned, walked in the bathroom, so that was another crazy thing, just part of it. And as well, to do with that time on this conspiracy, when I saw Nicole Kidman, who looked very distinctively like this lady Rhea, my mate's girlfriend, at the time my mate said she was on holiday in Scotland or something, and as I said, this lady, I think it was the Mirror or something like that, was on the front page, at the time that my mate's girlfriend, Rhea was away, basically she was in England at the time. So the conspiracy, as long as it sounds as it sounds, as I said, sounds insane to me, psych. But that's all I know, on that conspiracy. And as I said, we can use this as an example. As I said, even if you don't know Nicole Kidman, you look her up, very distinctive lady. And as an example, if this happened to you, why you would be suspicious. And it doesn't matter what agenda. Say you're a lady and this was the same situation with someone like, George Clooney or Brad Pitt, some dude like that, which I know ladies like. And if that same situation, but the dude dyed his hair or changed his identity features a bit, and you went for the same situation as me, and you saw, you saw that dude in the same scenario thing, you would be tripping out as much as I would, and it could be the same as I do with someone like Lucy Pinder, anyone like that, just like that, someone very distinctive, and that's exactly why this conspiracy leads from there, So, there's a lot of things behind that as well, which is why it leads on to this conspiracy about this lady, but we'll move on anyway, and then we'll fast forward a bit in time, to my ex Lorna, and what's to do with her, which is suspicious as well, on this conspiracy of being watched and beyond my situation. And I know one of the main things to do with her, based on this, one night basically we were taking class A drugs, let's just say that we took some ecstasy, and this is where the critical question comes in, right? Because I'd left her house to go on a bike ride, probably from the high of the drugs, and all I remember, while I was riding, I think it was Regent Street in Kettering, basically like a undercover car jumped me, and what the thing with this is, when they stopped me, they were specifically looking for ecstasy, right? They stopped searching me and said, "Where's the ecstasy?" That's what I remember them saying. No proof behind it, but this is from memory. And I was thinking, let alone did they stopped and searched me, they knew what they were looking for. They weren't saying, "Are you carrying anything?" They said, "Where's the ecstasy?" And I was thinking, how did they know that I was carrying drugs for starters? And then let alone knew, as if they knew what I was carrying, a specific drug called ecstasy, unless they could see what, they could, could see, watch me in Mike's bedroom where she lived down Highfield Road. And that's a big critical question behind this conspiracy about why I think I'm being watched, like. And then, we'll move along. That's the main one of that. I'm just trying to think of anything else to do with her, but that's the main one. And then we'll move on to other clues which have been more recent, and along to do with thinking I'm under the public eye to do with this before, I think it was about last year, right? And basically, I was I made a Facebook status last year on Facebook, asking for this album I'm making with my music to think of topics to rap about, right? And all I know is I tagged a few friends in it, and a friend of one of my friends who I knew, he suggested the topics distinctively as CCTV, closed circuit television. And obviously with my suspicions and my paranoia being watched, like, when I saw that CCTV suggestion, which was odd, obviously my alarm bells were ringing and I was getting more suspicious. And this dude's in the United States of America. I checked his profile and that to see, when I saw, because he was a random dude. And you can see why I'm so paranoid and have this conspiracy, So yeah, that was another thing. And then what proceeded from there is I met another lady on a mental health dating site, right? And from there, what's just mainly suspicious about her is, with this conspiracy is, when I went down to meet her where she lived in Surrey, which is near London. She lived down that end. And when I got down there, and basically as soon as I got, this is coincidental though, as soon as I stepped into her house when I got down there, one of my mates from here, Kettering, phoned me as soon as I entered that door, And I was thinking to myself, that's more than coincidental, Sometimes things can be, but along with what I've explained so far, I was tripping out about that. Because, it was crazy. The phone ringed as soon as I got in. So that was crazy itself. Along those lines. And then we'll fast forward to most recently. Basically on my birthday, right? I don't know what happened, my birthday last year. Basically what happened, I went bed in the morning and that. I know I'm on medication like quetiapine and risperidone, but regardless, I know there's side effects from those. All I know is, when I went bed that morning, I was laying in my bed, right? And as I fell asleep, I was having like these perfectly rectangular views, what looked like camera feed views of basically what looked like camera feed views of. The specific one I remember from a couple of them was me laying on my bed, and I could see me laying on my bed from a different view from a corner of one of my room in my room. And it, if you look at if you've got a laptop with a perfectly rectangular screen like what I've got when I look at my own screen, or even a perfectly rectangular shape, it was like that, And what I was seeing while I was laying there, with my eyes closed trying to fall asleep, it was insane, And all I saw, as I said, exactly what I was doing, laying down on my bed, my blue covers, I've got blue covers on my bed, and I've got the end of the covers hanging out, and I was seeing that, and it was a perfect vision, and it looked digital. It didn't look like a mental vision. And, I was tripping out, regardless of the argument, what would be that I'm on medication, there's side effects. But what I will put on that is, I've never had hallucinations ever off this quetiapine and risperidone ever since I've been on it. So where did these sudden hallucinations come from, for starters? And, coming to, fast forward into most recently, I made this song to there's a dude, if you're a hip-hop fan, you probably listen to this anyway. If you know a horrorcore hip-hop fan called Necro in America, I uploaded a song which I did to one of his instrumentals called Go Fuck Yourself. If you go and listen to that track on my YouTube channel. And, this was probably a few hours after I uploaded it, or a day after. I saw on his Facebook page, he posted a status saying, with a 21st Century Fox logo saying "Go fuck yourself" on it, and then it said, "If you don't like me," with that shit. And the lyrics on the hook of that song is "If you don't like me, go fuck yourself," or "If you hate me." So you know what I mean? And as far as I was aware, this dude doesn't know me, and he didn't even link the song. So all these things, you can understand the conspiracy and paranoia why I think I'm being watched like. So that's just covering the conspiracy about why I think I'm being watched and into the public eye, you know. And we'll move on to. I just want to move on to the next thing about me. What I said at the start, my concerns about why I'm different to other people. But I just want to go in order and things to make sure, what we'll do. I'm just trying to work out what proceeds from there, which is the best way to explain it. Well, we'll put in the concerns about me and my genetics and all that stuff at the end of the conspiracy, and we'll stand track of the surveillance thing, the public eye. And all I know, which is what's led from me saying on my previous recordings, like the last one I made about my computer feeling that's hacked. And, the suspicions that I'm trying to be convicted as some kind of terrorist, or whatever they're trying to, to do with this. And all I'll say is, I've previously mentioned it, where I had a premonition of what I predicted could be an attack, which ended up being 7/7, like I could, with this third eye view, to do with that. And, basically in Broughton, in 2004, I was standing there. And I don't know why, it's like a sense of, I said, I feel like something bad's going to happen. I just can sense it, like something bad's going to happen. I was standing there saying my suspicions, like it could be like simultaneous and stuff like that. And like in what I said though, my prediction on my concerns was it could be in cities, but coordinated. And I mentioned Liverpool could be one of them. And, all I know, after that, what happened, before I go on about my suspicions about this, that actually happened was the 7/7. And, it was exactly the same what happened, coordinated, but it was actually in London. And, when I remember from my memory that Liverpool Street was one of those places, and as I said, I predicted that maybe, from my suspicions, like my third senses, psychic sense you could call it, whatever maybe, that Liverpool was mentioned. So and all I know is what after then, things were my situation, which is why I'm so suspicious about this conspiracy. What happened after that, not long after, which will lead on to is, things like my friends and that, who, I never used to get on with them that well, and they did have a bit of hate for me, but they actually switched on me to major things, which I won't go into, but basically things started getting major with them, and like even the police and stuff, my local police, which I'll proceed on to, about this situation and that, what happened with them, which makes me more suspicious and that. And, regarding this conspiracy about my paranoia about this lady, Nicole Kidman, is crazy as it sounds like. What I forgot to mention, which I had, the picture I put up, what makes it more of a conspiracy, on this picture that I saw, she looks exactly like this, like my mate's girlfriend who was around, like what she's wearing and that on this picture, everything, like the top and the grey top underneath, the black thing over the thing, even the hair and everything, man, so, that's part of the conspiracy. But, some parts of it, make sense, and things like this just sound insane, and it's like, but we'll leave it there anyway. And basically what happened after that is, let me just fast forward to what happened after that. This was probably 2006, 2007, so a few years after what that happened. And as I said, there were things already going on which were suspicious with my friends and other things. But, after that, all I know is the first thing which made me fishy was to do with the situation. One time I was basically robbed in the street, riding home, which is also suspicious, but I'll move on to that after. Basically, I'd left my ex's Lorna's, and I was riding the same route I did every night home, through this alley at the top of Highfield Road. I got jumped and robbed and that. And, basically what happened after that, you know what I mean, because I got jumped by 3 people, I bought you know what I mean, I got a kitchen knife to carry me. I wasn't going to use it to actually cause harm, but to just pull out, and if I was outganged, to say back up, you know what I mean, so I could, without using any force, but just so they obviously wouldn't attack because they'd be intimidated. But, you know, I got arrested by the cops. I got jumped, and when I was taken to Corby police station, and after being in the cell, when I was taken for the interview, you know, they offered me a lawyer. They said, would you like a lawyer? Which they have to do legally. And I accepted. I said, yes, I would like a lawyer, legal advice. I knew I needed it. I knew the procedure. And so this lawyer, she, you know, when I went in for the interview, when I sat there in this interview, basically, right, you know, I was sitting there. And, you know, the police officer was starting to basically interview me. And, you know, basically for the whole interview, this lawyer, she sat there and she never said a word, not a single word, you know. And, you know, after the first question, I was already suspicious because, you know what I mean, I already knew the score from watching TV, like the bill and everything. You know, that she was supposed to basically give me suggestions like comment, no comment, or whisper in my ear as what to say as legal advice. But nah, she basically might as well have not been there because she never said a word. And I had to basically, you know what I mean, explain myself away. And explain I've got mental illness and, you know, I was carrying it to protect myself, but I wasn't going to harm anyone. But, you know, it was suspicious, you know, to do with that. You know, that she sat there and everything to do, referring from why suddenly I started getting harassed and all that stuff after this thing, about this premonition. And that's just part of it. And, you know, another time I was taken in an interview to do with a domestic incident. And basically, you know, when I was taken again to there, even though the charge was dropped, which I don't know legally if I had to even go in for an interview. I don't know the background behind that. But, you know, I was asking to go in and interview to a Kettering police station. And when I went in there for an interview, as far as I know, you know, they should have offered me a lawyer again because I was still being recorded and interviewed, right? But this police officer, sergeant, or whoever he was, he didn't even offer me legal advice. He didn't even offer a lawyer. He just basically took me in there and interviewed me, you know. And again, you know, legally, you know what I mean, I was basically not being able to defend myself with legal advice. And as far as I know, that could have been illegal of them not to offer me a lawyer. But then again, you know, and I'm feeling like I was set up, and I'm asking, why am I being set up? And then I keep thinking back to that premonition thing and where things went wrong. And to do with this situation, it's conspiracy, you know, but, you know, it has conspiracy has decent backup to it. So these things were fishy as well, you know. And then basically, you know, reverting back to when I was arrested for the knives, I was cautioned, right? And, you know, before the police let me go home, and they basically specifically said after the caution, they said, anything you are caught doing illegally again, you will be sent to prison, you know what I mean? And you'll be sent to court and sent to prison. And, you know, all I know is after that, this is another suspicious thing. Again, from analysis and memory, after that as well, I was getting stopped and searched and that, you know, all the time by the police. Always getting harassed, just riding home from my exes. You know, they were always stopping me, trying to find dirt on me. And, you know, well, my suspicion is the conspiracy. You know, this is conspiracy, free speech. But, you know, basically, you know, after that, you know, and, you know, a couple of times distinctively, I remembered, you know, these officers actually mentioned the same thing, the same as that ecstasy thing, as if they knew who I was and they already knew if, you know what I mean, they thought I was carrying weapons. Once I got jumped and they said, where are the weapons? And, you know, reverting back to when I first arrested, you know what I mean, and these were 2 different officers to the ones who arrested me, because I distinctly remember the first officer, what he looked like, you know, he was bald and that. I won't go into identity too much because of our security, but, you know what I mean, I knew it wasn't the same officer. And, you know, it's like critically thinking, how did he already know that if he didn't know me in that? And I was just some random stranger he thought was doing something suspicious. And yeah, basically I was stopped and searched so many times, after that. And I feel like the conspiracy thing, the suspicion is they were trying to find dirt at me to imprison me. And the conspiracy behind that. So you can understand the conspiracy why I think I'm being watched, like. And then we'll move on to do with this, obviously this situation in that, and my suspicions and conspiracies to do with it. I will proceed to most recent. I just need to make sure before I move on. Most recently, right, which is what's been going on. And around that time what was going on in that as well, and this was around the time when I was still with my ex-Lorna. Basically, one time I was riding home from hers just riding home from hers around these suburban areas. And this sounds crazy and made me suspicious. And basically I saw this dude, right, and he looked like someone, someone from what you would call Secret Service, walking around, and he was dressed like one, and he had like this earpiece and that. I won't go into identity, obviously security reasons, but I would just say when I saw him, he definitely looked like someone not normal. And obviously didn't notice at the time. I was oblivious to this, maybe if he was, the conspiracy of it, because I just felt I was a normal dude doing a normal life thing. But if he was, when I saw him, he really did look like that kind of person. These memories flashed back the other day, and I was thinking, why, if he was to do with those people, why is this dude even following me? Or even around to do with me? What's going on there? So that's just one of the other suspicious things, And then, fast forward recently, and this is going to move on after this, but, most recently, probably last year or so before my birthday, basically when I used to go in town as well, in the town centre, I don't know, it's this third eye sense, the possible psychic power I have, which is part of the third eye sense. But, I clocked what you would call ununiformed undercover cops, dressed as civilians in town. And, I actually could notice who they were, not only by how they were behaving and that, but, I was thinking to myself, why are these dudes, why are these dudes and uniformed cops even, watching me going in town, I'm just going doing my daily shit I do every day, getting shopping and all that shit. So, but at the time, before realising all this stuff what I've been explaining recently, I was oblivious to why all this shit was going on. And then we'll fast forward to very most recently, we're nearly finished, we're going to move on. So, basically, I think it was last year, right, basically, I felt like I was like being convicted and shit by some fake profile. And basically I put these files like on this MP3 player I had, right? And at the time I had a bicycle frame I was building up, which was sitting behind me. And basically what I did, I put these screenshots on there as, as evidence just in case I was convicted, or the conversations were manipulated to look like something else, not realising, forgetting about the suspicions. And I hid it in this bike seat tube, not thinking about the suspicions of the public eye. And basically, like it's like an agent thing, innit? But we'll proceed from what my suspicions to do with it. Yeah, it was like a thing, And all I know is, on my birthday when I started getting these, I went to look for my MP3. I think it was to put some music on it because my phone was broke. And I remember distinctly where I put it, as I said. And when I went to go in there, I realised this MP3 player was missing, from my seat tube. And, critically thinking, and the conspiracy about thinking I'm being watched and that and all that, I was thinking to myself, if I'm not being watched right, critical thinking, how did these people know I put the MP3 player in my seat tube? Because it was missing, and it's not in my flat, and I remember exactly where I left it. My memory serves me well, and you would know if you'd done it. So, I was thinking, it's like someone's came in here and they've taken that MP3 player out and they've took it somewhere. And that was suspicious, along with this conspiracy, why I think I'm being watched like. So, that's just one of the part things, Again, to do with, and we're nearly finished now, and moving on to the conspiracy about who I am and what I'm about. But my next door neighbour, one of my neighbours, let's just say that one of my neighbours, I won't give away my address and that security reason, but I basically gave spare keys to my neighbour to trust them, just in case I was locked out, that they could give me the spare ones. A lot of people do that, Or, I don't have family or friends, so they're the only person I can rely on. But, I gave that to them, and I put that in a paper envelope and wrote my name on it to make sure they remembered, just in case I ever needed them. And, quite recently I lost my keys and that. And, basically, I went to get them keys off them. And what I noticed was when they gave me the spare key, it wasn't in this paper envelope that I gave it to them in. It was in a plastic sealed bag. And I was thinking, if this neighbour hasn't touched the keys or anything to do with that, why have they been put in a different package? For starters, critical thinking, reverting to this MP3 thing that went missing, and now they have keys to give to someone. Reverting based on that, not long after I'd given my neighbour those keys, I remember from memory again, my memory serving me, I remember basically 2 police officers being at their door, their neighbour's door, who I gave the keys to not long after. And when I saw them, I was, I actually talked to them out of the concern of their safety, because I thought maybe they're in danger or something's going on. And these officers were being a bit sketchy, and they sounded like they were making up because they didn't expect me to talk to them. They were being suspicious. And, reverting back to, how do I know they knew I gave them the keys so they could access my flat, maybe illegally, but with another way, who knows? So, this is critical thinking. But all I know is that MP3 player is missing, And then, what we're going to move on to in a minute about my background and my conspiracy about who I am and what makes me different to other people. But, before we proceed on to that, about this conspiracy about Israel and Illuminati and all that stuff, and to do with the police harassment and all that stuff I've previously mentioned on this recording. When I write rhymes as an MC, my limited vocabulary isn't good, so I go on this website called Rhyme Zone, right? For like to look for rhymes, bigger words I don't know. And I don't know if it's coincidental, but if you've seen this Rhyme Zone, there's adverts at the side, right? And there was an advert on this thing, right? And I saw an Israeli advert on it, yeah, with the Israeli Prime Minister on it. With a conspiracy, that they knew what was on, and it was like a subliminal message. I don't know, but and the things, the same as Edward Snowden, maybe I've never served for like the people he is, or even done that work, but as I feel that I'm being convicted for something, that I'm a threat, because I'm exposing these people and the conspiracy of them, like they were trying to say they're watching me. I don't know, that's just more of a conspiracy behind that anyway. Alright, then we're going to move on to who I am and the conspiracy of why, who I am, on all this stuff behind this, for starters, right? The conspiracy again, why I think I'm different to all these to every other normal person, and that. And we'll start off with basically a general brief thing about my genes and why I feel I'm different to normal people. Like maybe I was a lab test or whatever. I've got fast reflexes, basically. I've noticed that. I can I've got fast moves and reflex, like sometimes in my flat, I could record it because people probably won't see me if it's not true, I'm not being watched, like. But if I can record it, I can basically move fast. I've got fast reflexes and coordination. And, especially with like cigarettes, what I do with them, basically I throw a cigarette in the air, make it spin in the air really fast, get momentum, and I can grab it so perfectly and catch it on my hand between my fingers, in the first place. And how fragile cigarettes are, right? And how easily they break if you tried it. Well, I can do this probably, 8 or 9 times out of 10 without even breaking it. You know, if you could see my move psych, you would be able to see, you know what I mean, how I can move, which made me realise I'm different to other people in this conspiracy in the first place. And then we'll move on to more into this conspiracy, right? I can refer back to like games and that, and which proceeds from what my suspicions are conspiracy. And like computer games, you know, like shoot 'em up games like that, like anything like shoot 'em ups where you have to, even if it's hand-eye coordination. Things I noticed myself. Two examples to do again with my ex Lorna when I was with her. When I was playing computer games, like the aiming on that, we'll refer to Splinter Cell, Chaos Theory, I think it was called. We were playing 2-player on that, right, on this game. And basically, you know, on this game, this soldier went to shoot her, right? She was basically crouched trying to hide because it's a stealth game. And on this game, this soldier he turned around to shoot her, he caught her. And, you know, I basically reacted with a split-second reaction, right, as well, on this computer game, for starters. So, yeah, you know, and, you know, based on that, all I was saying that is right because of she was my girlfriend at the time. You know, in a game, sometimes people take them seriously. I saw it as her, yeah, and she was about to be killed in that. So, obviously, as I was protecting her, the reflex that she was in danger, you know what I mean, I reacted fast. Because, you know what I mean, seeing it as real life, that if she was in danger, I had to save her. So, you know what I mean? But all I know is from that reaction, man, I shot myself and I thought, wait a minute, how did I do that? But, you know what I mean, there's other examples, again, when I was with her. When I played Rainbow Six Vegas 2, played co-op with her on that, you know, I think it's that first mission you do in the Alps or something. And, you know, you get past this, you get to this bit where there's loads of these. And when I was doing that, I was thinking, wait a minute, I'm a bit, you know what I mean? I feel like I've got some kind of ability. Obviously, what I've not discovered till recently. And we can even do this all to do with games. Like one I used to play, if anyone knows Sniper Elite and Sniper Elite 2, like they're basically sniper simulators. They're not like COD. You have bullet drop on them and that, you know. So the further you shoot, the bullet drops and stuff like that. And if you got moving targets, wind and stuff. And, you know, when I played that when I was younger to even the recent one, especially when I was younger, I don't know how old I was when I played them, probably 15, 16. And, you know, this was, when I was doing that, I was thinking, wait a minute. I was like subconsciously thinking, how can I do that? Not realising on this conspiracy. So, you know, things like that, they don't make sense. And then we can move to other things which aren't even like army based, but, you know, like driving simulators. When I play this game, Forza, which is a driving simulator, and I ain't trying to boast, but what I noticed which shocked me more is like, especially Forza 5, with a steering wheel and that, you know, the coordination and control of those cars without driver's assists on and anything, man. You know, like me in the car in those games. You know what I mean? Perfectly, you know what I mean? Coordination and control of these cars, like powerful cars that can get oversteering that with a lot of torque and that. You know what I mean? And even power sliding, controlling those. You know what I mean? Putting those things together, to me, in this conspiracy, I feel like I'm different to other people. But, you know, based on that as well, yeah. So, and also I noticed with Forza 5 is and this is a non-clutch steering wheel, I was getting about top 10 to top 40% on world records on most of the tracks. You know, and as everyone knows, the people who have got the top scores use clutch, whether it's wheel or controller, and the clutch gives extra seconds to the laps, probably could get 10 seconds faster. And all these things that, you know, critical thinking from conspiracy, why I'm asking myself, how come I have all these abilities? And, you know, the conspiracy, what will lead into, it's only a conspiracy. And I know I've got mental illness and all that, but, you know what I mean? You've got to feel me on this, and it's only conspiracy anyway. But, you know, the conspiracy is, who knows, based on that, maybe I was said, test tube baby, genetically modified, who knows with what, to be some kind of super soldier, based on what I mentioned with my skills and that, especially with, like shoot 'em up games because, you know, the way I see it and the way I was introduced as a child, you know, if you could use it as like a, because, you know, a child wouldn't know or even know, but, you know, like they can be brainwashed to, you know what I mean, or inspired to come up to be a certain person, you know. Like if you're an artist, a music artist, you want your kid to be the same, you can, you know what I mean, get them into music. Well, you know, as a kid, I remember, and this is from flashbacks and on this conspiracy, you know, when I was a kid, probably 5 or 6, probably at that age, you know, my parents bought me like a toy case. It was called a secret agent case, and basically in this toy case it had like a plastic gun with silencer and scope and all that stuff, like a secret agent thing. And you know what proceeded from there as a child, you know, I was introduced to like sort of military style stuff, you know, like brought along that line. And I feel like I was, on the conspiracy, I was led to this, what I'll talk about this conspiracy, why I was. You know, like when I got a bit older, my dad suddenly bought me and my brother, like camo. I think it was a shop called Mishmash or something in my town anyway, like camo and that, you know what I mean, as a kid. You know what I mean? As if he wanted me to grow up and want to be inspired by the military and stuff like that. And I was already into toy guns, I was already at the time and stuff like that, right? And then as I grew up, based on this conspiracy, there's other things. Well, led from that, what makes this conspiracy part of why I'm talking about it. You know, I'm just reading off my screen again stuff to leave from where it led to, and in order of time. Basically, you know, like, yeah, like even since a young age, like even my dad used to deliberately play films like about like army and special forces and stuff, and that I feel maybe it could have been a brainwash. I don't need to make me, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Shows like even which I watched myself and being led from that inspiration. There was a TV show on ITV which was based on SAS, which had can't remember the dude's name. The dude who played Grant Mitchell on EastEnders, trying to remember his name. You know what I mean? That was like that. You know, I was already interested in that background thing. There was a program called So You Want to Be in the SAS on BBC Two, which basically showed what people go through to be in that. And I was interested in anything like that, you know, things like that already. You know what I mean? And things that led from that. And then as I grew a bit older, you know, like I noticed specifically, and how I've always have been until even now, I was always specifically interested in games based on special ops, like special forces, like you know, like SOCOM games on PlayStation 2 and that, and things like that. Rainbow Six, you know, they were more like special forces, like stuff like that. You know, and when it came to games like Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff like that, which I still ain't interested in, and I never was interested in, you know, in this conspiracy, if you can feel where I'm coming from, why I think this. So that's just part of it, you know. And then we'll revert back to what went from there. Near enough the same time, I ended up having an interest, you know what I mean, I actually ended up having an interest in that. I went and ended up getting a replica, well, you know, ball bearing powered guns, like plastic BB guns, but they look like real replicas. You know what I mean? My dad bought me them offline when I was a kid, and that, because obviously, you know, I wanted, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And on this conspiracy, I was brought up to try and be brainwashed to be, you know what I mean? You can see where I'm coming from if you're on my level. But yeah, you know, I had a few of those. I had loads of different models of those, even like an AK-74 plastic one, you know what I mean? Things like that, you know what I mean? I had loads of them. And even a replica, like a metal replica, blank firer, blank firing rounds, not real, but other, like, which looked like a Beretta 992FF. So you know what I mean? I was led down to that road to try and be brought up into that, and is basically the conspiracy. And you know, we'll revert back to like the games thing and that. You know, this is where it comes along to this conspiracy. You know, like there's skills that I've naturally had, even if there were games, you know, like aiming and that and stuff like that. And, you know, like games like Hitman, where you're Agent 47. Watch Dogs and that, especially like Hitman, like that game is like basically what you would see if you know that sort of dude. He was basically like a secret service, trained with like special forces skills. It would be like basically, as an example, if you saw Agent 47 on that game, he would basically be ex-Spec Ops who has been trained with agent skills to do assassinations, but have skills to do other things. You know what I mean? That's how I saw it. But you know what I mean? It's just weird, and the conspiracy, is based on this thing and what I proceed from. Because as I see, I've got skills to use, naturally have the minds natural without being trained to, think and work things out like people with that profession would do in the first place. And, reverting to 2 games, for example, like Watch Dogs, if anyone's played that PlayStation 3 and that, on that game you do hacking it. I know it's not, I've never done real hacking in real life, so I don't know how complex it is, but on those games they're still quite complex. A lot of people maybe wouldn't be able to work them out. And this is another thing which shocked me, most of them when I played that game, I could work those, if you played it, work those out myself as if it was a natural ability in my genes. And then, this is another one, I think it was Splinter Cell Rogue Agent, that game. On one of those missions on that game, right, you basically, you have to somehow, what is it called, work out this algorithm. Fuck's sake, I can't even say it. But, on that, it's like a cube and it's got all different numbers, and you have to basically work that out, to unlock it. And it's really complex if you played that. And, reverting to my ex-Lorna, and no, I don't fancy her. It's just because, But just because, this is from memory. But, she's a intelligent lady, and analysing who she was, she does that stuff, like puzzles and that when I was with her. So I knew she could work it out better than me, right? But she sat there so many times trying to work it out and couldn't do it, right? And then I went back to have a go at it, right? And all I know is, after a couple of tries, I worked it out, as if it was a natural ability I had. In this thing, I just worked it out and I wasn't even calculating. It's just like my mind was working it out, like naturally, like I had some kind of ability. And when you revert back to this conspiracy that maybe, who knows, it's a conspiracy that, with the skills I've got, maybe I was designed to be that kind of person, like this Agent 47 thing on those games, like, I don't know, it's just conspiracy, but you never know, it's just putting things together and stuff like that, no matter how crazy it sounds like. So yeah, and then like games like Splinter Cell itself, which was like sort of that sort of thing, but in a different application. I was always, I was brought up to be interested of the conspiracy as a child. I was brainwashed to be, inspired and brought up into that, as seen how it led me to, in special forces and stuff like that. And then again, reverting to my genes and how I'm different, faster than normal people and stuff. And all that stuff, like I'm genetically modified somehow, test tube baby, who knows, it's just a conspiracy. And then I'll just move, and then I said that's another example, right, how I naturally, with the MP3 player, that I felt I was being set up in that, with this fake account and that, and why I tried to put evidence on the screenshots of the real conversation, how I put I put the MP3 player I mentioned, put it in the seat tube. It's like a sort of a skill that someone, I know it's not exactly complex, but it was like that thing, like one of those people, but who are actually training that would do, like a secret service, they'll probably do something different because they'll have connects, but what I did, it's like, a natural ability. And, I've never been trained or even worked, and it makes me wonder how I've got, these traits and natural abilities that if I was trained to do these things and I ended up being based on that conspiracy, that I'd be more, trained to do it, I'd be able to do it. And then I'm nearly finished this recording. Anyway, I'm nearly finished. I'm just looking back at other games. I'm really very nearly finished on this. I'm just looking for the last bit. Just looking further through and nearly finished. Just hold on with me. Nearly finished, man. Just quickly looking. Yeah, before I finish this, there's a last couple of bullet points I'll be trying quick about. But 3 games, and noticed that, as again based that I was brought up to be interested in special forces based games over like Battlefield soldier ones. Like when I back in Brighton, I played like spec op games, what they call special forces. Like if anyone remembers Strike Back on the PlayStation 2 and that, which was based in I think it was called Desert Storm there, like that. As I said, SOCOM, US Navy SEALs and other special forces, Rainbow Six as well. All those, like counter-terrorism, what they call things like that stuff. And I can't really go based on this. This is all conspiracy, but how I grew up and my personality traits, and this is all conspiracy, I know I have a mental illness, like, but like this, maybe, and this is conspiracy, that maybe I was psychologically also brought up with my childhood, or maybe it just could have been bad luck to psychologically, be brought up into that cold-heartedness, so I was so cold-hearted because if like people like that, like they're basically killers, like special forces. Even if they think or brainwashed to think they're doing out of good intentions, they're basically killing machines, They're just trained killers, And basically, at a certain point, I was really angry in that, I felt cold-hearted, not murderous, but basically, I felt, like that sort of mind state that if I was brought up intentionally to be inspired by that psychologically, I would also have to be psychologically manipulated and through emotions and like stress and being beaten that as a kid, all that shit to make me end up having those, feeling, being that sort of person. But luckily I changed around, with God. But, it's based on conspiracy. If you've watched The Simpsons, I remember this. They specifically said, if you remember when they talk about the army, I think it's the dude who the cartoon character who presents that news channel, if you remember a clip from there, he actually says, referring to the army, about joining the army, something like an advert. It's basically saying join the army to be a killing machine. The key word's killing machine, because that's what they are, You know what I mean? And that's all I know, Who knows, And, referring back to if I was like a test tube baby and all this stuff, and it was based on that, I feel like, obviously I would just be treated like that, like some kind of bit of dirt that doesn't matter, just going to be designed from a test tube. People play with science on this conspiracy, you know what I mean? And just was evil too, so they could, for evil intentions to make me evil so I could do their dirty work. As I said, it's all conspiracy, but conspiracy always has reasons and backup to it. So, you just have to look at it that way, And if you look at it that way, it's cool. And that's all I'll leave on that anyway. I think I've gone through everything. I'll just make sure. Yeah. And then we'll just refer back to, again, on this conspiracy, fast forward to what I previously mentioned. And they've other recordings that I feel like I'm convicted in the conspiracy theorist thing. What they're trying to make is a criminal offence now, certainly is to do with me. Well, with my local police force, and I won't go too into that, but if, in my local police force, basically I've read in the paper that my local police force commissioner is being investigated for doing illegal activity, passing on third party, breaching the Data Protection Acts, passing on, personal information to third parties. And, I don't know, as I said, what I've explained with my suspicion with my local police, I don't know if it's to do with me because it was just mentioned as a criminal investigation, allegedly. But, I wouldn't be surprised, It's all conspiracy, but, based on all the stuff that's happened to me and what I would have said at the start, and it makes me wonder who these third parties are because, I won't make accusations, but if it's already made illegal is already broken the law, you know. You don't know who these third parties are, if they're authorities, but you know what I mean, I don't have evidence behind that, so it won't be accusation but conspiracy. But you know, I haven't ever had good experience with my local police force, what I would say, without getting the violin out, let's just say. And I don't know if it's the same dude who was in charge at the time, but you know, when my brother was basically left for dead, and I'll briefly talk about that and whether this same commissioner was in charge years ago, right? Basically, my brother was left for dead on an overdose, and these police officers from Northamptonshire Police, they were called out, and the witness saw them turn up to where the person reported my brother to be dying, and he saw them turn up after reporting, seeing what he thought was someone dying down an alley or someone dead. And all I remember, the investigation, what led from that, is because this dude, when he came and looked out his window later, my brother was still laying there dead down the alley, and he knew the police had been and gone, and this body was still here, you know. And you know, that's where this they had conferences or whatever, like private discussions to and you know what led from that, because of that, which should have been manslaughter, right, or neglect, you know. I would have called it manslaughter. And you know, basically, let's just say they got away with, you know, the two police officers weren't brought to justice as criminals or charged with manslaughter from that. And you know, it was in my local newspaper, the Evening Telegraph, a few years ago, you know. I remember seeing about that. And you know, to me, that's bad, you know, that if they are victimising me, and this same commissioner who did that, who let those police officers, you know, get away with a crime they did, are victimising me. So, you know, it's upsetting to me for starters, man. But you know what I mean, I won't go too emotional about that. I'll just keep it as brief as possible. But yeah, you know, it's crazy stuff, man. And there's a lot of stuff behind that which I won't disclose, maybe, but I will just keep it as brief as possible as that. But I mean, if you can find that, or even if the Evening Telegraph, Kettering Northampton Telegraph reported it, can look for their archives. 99, 2000 this time, Tony Chambers, my brother, you'll be able to find that article which you actually wrote, which talked about that itself. So yeah, you know, and all I know, you know, as I said, it was upsetting because of my brother's death from there, which my mum, you know, she went through a lot of shit, just trying to bring justice and find out the truth. She ended up getting ill, and she ended up dying from that, you know, because, you know, previously in my history, all I will say is she lost her first son, my brother Andrew, from a suicide, you know. So my mum, she lost two kids, you know what I mean, she lost two sons, you know, that I'd assume that's what made her ill, you know. It would have been very heartbreaking, you know, especially as I see mothers love their kids a lot, you know. So, you know, I try not to get emotional because I am a bit at the moment, but you know, it's, you know what I mean, that's all I say in that, you know. I try and keep it without getting emotional. You know, there's a lot of things behind this that upset me and also make me suspicious about the situation and the conspiracy behind it. So, you know, if you follow me and listen to these things, then you can be on my level, you know. So cheers for listening. May signing out. Peace.